There is a point in every serious journey where the world stops making noise, not because the world went quiet, but because everything you once used to mask your doubts, fears, and questions simply disappears. The applause fades, the deadlines pass, the feedback slows, and suddenly you're left with one thing: the silence. And this silence, it is not empty. It sounds like nothing, but inside you, it echoes like everything. You think you were tested when obstacles stood in your way. You think hardship is loud because it hurts, it screams, it challenges you out in the open. But the real test, the one that decides whether you will rise or retreat, it begins in silence. When the silence gets loud, that's when your old beliefs fall apart. When your mind starts to replay every mistake you ever made. When your heart whispers, maybe you're not ready for this. When the doubts flood in like shadows in a dark room, and there's no one else there to witness them. You ever notice that the thoughts that shake you the most are the ones that show up when you're alone? Not angry, not pressured, not in need of defense, just quiet, just you and your own inner world. That's when the critic rises. Not because you're weak, but because your own silence has become a loudspeaker for every fear you haven't faced yet. Here's the cruel paradox of growth. You think struggle is resistance from the outside world, but the fiercest resistance, it comes from within. From the part of you that is trying to stay safe in what you already know. From the part of you that doesn't want transformation because transformation demands the unknown. In the silence, all the masks fall, all the distractions vanish, all the excuses evaporate. There is only you, face to face with your own unfinished self, and that is terrifying. Not because you lack capability, but because in silence, you hear what you've been avoiding. You hear the unspoken regrets, the unrealized potential, the dreams you stopped believing in, not because they were impossible, but because silence allowed you to feel the gap between who you are and who you want to become. Most people run from this moment. They turn the volume up with noise, people, screens, obligations, anything to drown out the inner question. Do you truly want this? Because silence doesn't let you dance around answers. It forces them to surface. So let me ask you, right here, right now, when was the last time you were truly alone with your own mind? Not busy, not distracted, not performing or presenting, just present. And in that silence, did you feel peace? Or did you feel something much heavier? Because something interesting happens in that space. The part of you that used to rely on noise for comfort begins to show its true shape. And it's there in that quiet that you discover the real opponent isn't fear of failure. It's fear of who you might become if you finally succeeded. Silence doesn't attack you with loud questions. It whispers the hardest ones. What do you want? Who are you without distractions? Are you ready to become the person you dream of, even if it means leaving behind the part of you that you've clung to for safety? The silence isn't your enemy. It's your mirror. A mirror that reflects not just your fear, but your potential. And the real question isn't whether you can push forward when everyone is watching or when the world is loud. The real question is whether you'll continue when the silence gets loud. Silence isn't absence, it's presence. And when it surrounds you, it doesn't just expose what you lack. It reveals what you've been avoiding becoming. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. No one teaches you. You say you want change, success, peace, purpose, but do you really want it? If it means becoming unrecognizable to the version of yourself you've always been, because silence makes it real. It shows you the price of transformation. Letting go of the comfort of your excuses. Letting go of being understood by the people who only knew your past. Letting go of the predictable rhythm of smallness to step into the terrifying vastness of potential. That's why so many people sabotage their growth the moment it begins to work. Because winning in silence is lonely. It strips the applause. It removes the performance. And it puts you in a room with the one person who's been with you your entire life, yourself. But here's where the silence sharpens. It's not just quiet, it's surgical. It cuts through the noise of who you thought you were, to show you who you could be, if you're willing to let go. You start to remember the times you almost committed to something but didn't, the dreams you half-built, the promises you made to yourself at midnight and broke by morning, not because you weren't capable, but because you were addicted to preparation, to the illusion of almost ready, to the performance of progress, without the cost of real evolution. And then, in the middle of that silence, something whispers, you're not behind, you're just resisting what's next. That line, it stings, because it's true. Think about it. How many times have you stood at the edge of growth and turned around because it didn't feel safe enough? How often have you confused safety with alignment, comfort with peace? You say you want peace, but you run from silence. You say you want abundance, but you fear losing what little you have. You say you want change, but you sabotage it the moment it disrupts the rhythm of your past. And the silence knows. It doesn't condemn. It simply waits until the moment you're ready to stop talking about becoming and actually become. There's a reason sages, mystics, monks all speak of silence not as emptiness, but as revelation. Because once the noise clears, once your ego stops narrating your life like a highlight reel, what's left is the truth. And the truth is this: you're not afraid of failure. You're afraid that success might ask you to shed everything that once made you feel safe. The habits, the friendships, the identities, the stories. That's why silence is sacred. Because it doesn't lie to you. It just sits there, unapologetic, uncomfortable, undeniable. And that's what makes it powerful. So I'll ask you again, are you ready to let go of the noise, even if it means facing parts of yourself you've been hiding from for years? Because the silence won't rush you, but it will hold a mirror to your soul until you either walk away from who you could become, or surrender to what you've always been meant to be. This isn't motivation, this is confrontation, and the silence is still waiting. Here's the thing about silence: it doesn't break you, it reveals where you're already cracked. You might think you're strong because you've survived chaos, you've navigated heartbreak, you've endured loss, you've rebuilt after failure. But that strength that was forged in fire, loud, chaotic, obvious. What silence does is far more subtle and far more dangerous. Because silence doesn't confront you with tragedy, it confronts you with truth. It's easy to run on adrenaline, to survive on stress, to move fast and call it progress. But when the noise stops, when the distractions fall away, all that's left is your essence. And if you've never faced that part of yourself, it can feel like standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down into a version of you that you don't yet recognize. In silence, there are no performance metrics, no likes, no followers, no results to prove you're on track. There's only presence. And for most people, presence feels like punishment. Why? Because presence holds a question that few are willing to answer honestly. If nothing changed in your life, no promotion, no partner, no recognition, could you still sit with yourself in peace? Most can't. Most are addicted to movement, not because they're growing, but because they're escaping. And silence is the one place escape doesn't work. You can't scroll your way out of it. You can't schedule your way past it. You can only face it or run. And here's the kicker: you've probably already faced silence. At 2 a.m., lying in bed, scrolling not because you care, but because you're avoiding something. On a Sunday afternoon, when the noise dies down and you suddenly feel anxious, not because anything is wrong, but because there's nothing filling the space. That's not boredom, that's exposure. The part of you that only knows how to feel alive when things are loud doesn't know what to do when it's quiet. And so it panics. It invents problems, it replays old stories, it convinces you to chase something, anything, just to feel busy again. But the bravest thing you can do is stay there, in the silence, and not flinch. To let the noise dissolve, to let the ache rise, to let the grief surface, not just for what happened, but for all the versions of you that never got to fully live. Because here's the paradox: silence hurts, not because it's empty, but because it holds everything you never gave yourself permission to feel. And feeling is the beginning of real change. You want clarity. You won't find it in more books, more courses, more opinions. You'll find it in the moment where the world goes still and you finally listen. That's when the next version of you starts to speak. So, I'll ask you this, Oj. What are you avoiding by keeping your life loud? What truth have you buried beneath performance, productivity, or perfectionism? Because until you face that, you'll keep cycling through the same patterns, chasing the same peace, fearing the same silence. But you don't have to. You can sit in it. You can breathe through it. You can listen to it. And when you do, silence becomes sacred, not as your enemy, but as your invitation to come home to your voice, your values, your path. And maybe, for the first time in a long time, you'll realize that the silence was never empty. It was full of you. What happens after the silence breaks you open? You rebuild, but not in the way you've rebuilt before. Not with urgency, not with noise, not with performance. This time, you rebuild from presence, from essence, from the version of you that didn't need to be seen to be real. Here's the power of silence. It takes away what's not essential and gives you back what is. You stop needing validation, you stop chasing applause, you stop performing healing and actually begin to heal. But here's what most people don't realize. This stage is quiet too. There's no dramatic comeback. No one claps when you choose a better thought. No one sees when you walk away from an old identity without fanfare. No one notices when you breathe deeply instead of reacting. When you show up, not out of obligation, but out of alignment. That's the sacred work that silence births. And if you don't value this phase, you'll miss it. You'll look around, see no progress, and assume you're stuck. But healing, clarity, awakening, these things don't look like progress. They feel like stillness. They feel like neutrality. They feel like peace, so unfamiliar, your nervous system doesn't know whether to trust it. Because when you've been operating from chaos, stillness feels suspicious. When your worth has been tied to productivity, rest feels like failure. When your identity was shaped by struggle, peace feels like death. But it's not death, it's rebirth. It's the moment your nervous system realizes it no longer has to fight to exist. That you're not behind, you're not broken. You're just in a moment of alignment that doesn't require panic to feel alive. You start to see patterns. You realize some relationships never nourished you, they just kept you distracted. Some dreams weren't dreams, they were survival mechanisms dressed as ambition. Some fears weren't real, they were inherited, generational, taught, not chosen. And in the silence, you unlearn them. Not overnight, but in soft, holy moments that no one sees. That's why this part of the journey is sacred. Because it's the part where you re-meet yourself. Not the self who needed to be fixed. The self who was always whole beneath the noise. You start choosing differently. Not because of discipline or hustle, but because your internal compass is louder than the world. That's when silence shifts from confrontation to confirmation, from emptiness to empowerment, from fear to freedom. So don't rush this part. Don't sprint back to the noise just because silence doesn't give you gold stars. Stay with it, because the longer you stay, the clearer you hear your own voice. The one that says, I'm not lost, I'm listening. I'm not late, I'm aligning. I'm not weak, I'm waking up. And that is the most dangerous thing in the world, a person who has made peace with themselves in silence. Because nothing owns them anymore. Not fear, not timelines, not noise. Just presence, just truth. Just the quiet power of someone who knows who they are, even when no one's watching. By now, you've sat in the stillness long enough to feel its weight. But what you might not expect is this. Eventually, silence doesn't just stop screaming. It starts speaking. And when it does, what it tells you can change everything. It whispers truths you forgot. It reminds you of dreams you buried. It replays memories, not to haunt you, but to heal you. It shows you what you've been surviving without ever calling it survival, and what you've been settling for, while calling it peace. You realize you've been living in noise so long. You thought anxiety was ambition. You thought busyness meant purpose. You thought progress was always visible. But in silence, you discover the invisible victories, like not texting back out of old habits, like resting without guilt, like no longer needing to be understood, just understood by yourself. And in that quiet, powerful shift, something cracks open, a deeper you, a freer you, a version of you that doesn't need noise to feel worthy. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Most people aren't afraid of failure, they're afraid of silence. Because in silence, you lose the ability to hide. And when there's nowhere to hide, you finally meet yourself. Raw, real, unfiltered. That's not something everyone can handle. But if you can stay when the room goes quiet, if you can breathe through the ache instead of avoiding it, if you can listen, not to escape, but to understand, then you've already passed the test. Because this is the real test, OG. Not whether you succeed, not whether the world claps, but whether you keep going, when no one's watching. When the vision is still blurry, when the results aren't in, when the only voice cheering you on is the one inside your chest, quiet but unwavering. That's the voice that doesn't just carry you forward, it builds you. It becomes your compass, your grounding, your clarity. And from there, life doesn't need to get louder. You get quieter, because you've learned how to move with intention, to choose what feels aligned, to walk away without a fight, to rest without needing to earn it. You don't need the world to understand your silence, because your silence has made you understand the world. So if you're here, at the end of this video, it means one thing: you're ready, not just to move forward, but to move forward differently, slower, truer, from depth, not from fear. Because now you know, the silence wasn't your enemy, it was your teacher. And what it taught you: that the most powerful transformation doesn't come from noise. It comes from knowing exactly who you are, even when no one else can hear it.